Hello and welcome back to the course of Basic Electrical Engineering. In this video lecture, I am going to continue with the unit 3, that is transformer. The topics that I am going to discuss in this video lecture are ideal transformer and practical transformer and EMF equation of transformer. So let us start with the EMF equation of the transformer. So here you can see one transformer is there which consists of primary and secondary winding. Primary is connected with the alternating voltage V1. Secondary is connected with the load. N1 is the number of turns of the primary winding, N2 is the number of turns of the secondary winding. Then phi m is the maximum flux produced in the core, which is given by Bm into A, where Bm is the maximum flux density and A is the area of the core. So this is the phi m, that is the flux produced in the core. Bm is equal to phi m divided by A, which is measured in terms, phi m is measured in terms of Weber. Then AI is the cross-sectional area of the core, that is measured in terms of meter square, and F is the supply frequency. Now, as we apply the alternating voltage in the primary winding, alternating current will start to flow, and because of this alternating current, alternating flux will be produced in the winding. So this alternating flux will be having a sinusoidal shape. So this is the representation of alternating flux. Phi m is the maximum value of the flux, and it completes its one cycle in t second. Now flux we can see here, we know the EMF induced in the coil is given by E is equal to d phi by dt. So we have to find the average of the flux. So flux here increases from 0 to its maximum value in 1/4 of the cycle, you can see here, and 1/4 of the cycle is nothing but the t by 4. Now t is equal to 1 divided by f. So flux increases from 0 to maximum in 1 divided by 4f seconds, we can say. So average rate of flux is given by d phi by dt. So phi m divided by time. So phi m divided by 1 upon 4f. So it is 4f phi m Weber per second, and that is nothing but the volt, because EMF induced in the coil is nothing but the average rate of flux. So rate of change of flux per turn means induced EMF according to the Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. So average EMF per turn is equal to 4f phi m volt. Now phi m varies sinusoidally. So the RMS value of the induced EMF is obtained by multiplying the average value with the form factor. We know for sinusoidal waveform, form factor is given by RMS value divided by average value, and that is nothing but the 1.11. So RMS value is equal to 1.11 into average value, and average value for 1/4 cycle of this flux is 4f phi m. So RMS value of EMF per turn is equal to 1.11 into 4f phi m. So is equal to 4.44 f phi m. So this is the RMS value per turn of the coil. Now RMS value of the induced EMF of the whole primary coil is equal to induced EMF per turn into the number of primary turns. Now number of primary turns is N1. So E1 is equal to 4.44 f N1 phi m. That is nothing but the 4.44 f N1 BMA, because phi m is equal to Bm into A, where Bm is the maximum flux density and A is the cross sectional area. Now secondary is having N2 turns. So EMF RMS value of the induced EMF in the secondary coil is given by E2 is equal to 4.44 f N2 phi m. Now putting the value of phi m, so is equal to 4.44 f N2 BMA. So this is the RMS value of the induced EMF in the primary and secondary coil. Now using this expression of E1 and E2, let us define voltage transformation ratio, that is denoted by K. Now these are the expression of E1 and E2 that we have already derived. Now if we take the ratio of E2 and E1, we are getting E2 by E1 is equal to N2 by N1 is equal to 4.44 f BMA. That is a constant ratio. That is a constant value. So voltage transformation ratio is given by E2 by E1 is equal to N2 by N1 is equal to K. Now based on the value of K, we can define transformer as a step up transformer, step down transformer and isolation transformer. So if N2 is greater than N1, then K is greater than 1. If K is greater than 1, then transformation is called step up transformer. That means secondary voltage is higher than primary voltage. Next one is if N2 is less than N1, then K is less than 1, then transformer is known as a step down transformer. That means primary voltage is higher than secondary voltage. And if K is equal to 1, then primary voltage and secondary voltage are equal. N1 is equal to N2, E2 is equal to E1. Then that transformer is known as a isolation transformer. Now moving towards the ideal transformer. So first let us understand which are the properties of the ideal transformer. So ideal transformer should have zero leakage flux. That means flux produced by the primary and secondary currents are confined within the core. No flux pass through the air. All the flux is passing through the core. Second one, the winding has zero resistance. So primary winding and secondary winding should have zero resistance. Then and then we can say E1 will be equal to V1 and E2 will be equal to V2. So induced voltage equal the applied voltage. The core has infinite permeability. Now permeability means what? We have already discussed permeability in the previous lecture. Permeability is how easily flux can be set up. So the reluctance of the core is zero and negligible current is required to establish the magnetic flux. This is the third assumption. And the fourth one is a lossless magnetic core. That means what? No losses are taking place in the transformer. That is no hysteresis loss, no eddy current loss and no copper loss. Copper loss is basically loss because of the windings or resistance of the windings. Practically it is impossible to realize the ideal transformer, to design the ideal transformer, but study of ideal transformer is useful to understand the theory of practical transformer. So now let us take one ideal transformer here which consists of magnetic core and the windings are there. You can say this is a primary winding, this is the secondary winding, and these windings are connected. Primary winding is connected to the alternating voltage V1, which will, because of the alternating voltage V1, alternating current will start to flow in the primary winding. Primary winding is having N1 turns, secondary winding is having N2 turns. EMF induced in the primary winding is given by E1, EMF induced in the secondary winding is given by E2. Now potential difference, that V1 will produce alternating current, and because of the alternating current, alternating flux will be produced in the coil, and because of the alternating flux, EMF gets induced in the coil, that we have already defined as a E1. Now as transformer is ideal transformer, coil to be assumed is purely inductive. It does not consist of any resistance, and here output is not there. There is no output because secondary is left open. Primary current will draw only one component, that is a magnetization current. So in ideal transformer, only one current will be flowing in the primary winding, that is denoted by I mu, that is a magnetization current. The function of this magnetization current is to magnetize the core, to establish the flux. Now it is small in magnitude, and as coil is purely inductive, the primary magnetization current will lag behind the input voltage by 90 degree, because for purely inductive circuit, the current lags behind the voltage by 90 degree. The alternating current I mu will produce alternating flux in the coil. Now flux is dependent on the alternating current increases, flux increases, alternating current decreases, I mu decreases, flux will be also decreasing. So flux phi produced will be in phase with the I, that is I mu. Now this changing flux gets linked with the primary and secondary winding, and according to the Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction, it will produce self-induced EMF in primary winding, which is given by E1, and E1 will be every time equal and in opposite to V1 according to the Lenz's law, because according to the Lenz's law, EMF induced will oppose cause of its production. Cause of production of E1 is I1, and I1 cause of production of I is nothing but the V1. So ultimately E1 is produced because of V1. E1 is also known as a back EMF of the primary winding because it opposes the cause of production, that is V1. E2 is a mutually induced EMF, and E2 will be in antiphase with V1 because cause of production of E2 is V1. It depends on the rate of change of flux and number of secondary turns. Now drawing the phasor diagram based on this theory. So here flux will be taken as a reference phasor because it is common for E1 and E2. So flux phi is taken as a reference phasor. Now we know I is in phase with the phi because as I increases, phi increases. So I and phi is in phase, and only component for node ideal transformer is a magnetization component. So I will be equal to I mu. Now coil are assumed to be purely inductive. So for purely inductive circuit, we know there is a phase difference of 90 between V and I. So V and I lags behind V1 by 90 degree. Now E1 is in antiphase with V1, so E1 will be in downward direction. E2 will be also in downward direction. So this is a complete phasor diagram of the ideal transformer. Ideal transformer, winding resistance are 0, leakage reactance, leakage flux is 0, losses are 0. Now moving toward the actual transformer, that is a practical transformer. Now what is the property of the practical transformer? So it is having opposite property to that of ideal transformer. Now losses are present in the practical transformer, iron losses is there. Now we know as iron core is subjected to the alternating flux, there will be a eddy current loss and hysteresis losses. These losses are known as the iron losses or coal losses. Then winding resistance will be always present because primary and secondary windings are made of a copper or aluminum. In the ideal transformer, we assume that winding resistance is 0, but in actual practice, winding resistance are there. So as windings are made of copper, both offer certain resistances. As current flow through the winding, there will be a power loss as well as voltage drop across them. So in practical transformer, V1 and E1 will not be equal, same as V2 and V2 will not be equal. And third one is a leakage reactance. Now what is leakage reactance? So no, we know primary current will produce some alternating flux phi and some part of the flux which will not link with the secondary winding. Similarly, secondary will produce some flux which will not link with the primary winding. These flux phi 1 and phi 2 are known as a leakage flux, and because of the leakage flux, reactances are present in series with primary and secondary winding, which ultimately affects the power factor of the transformer of the circuit. So these are the properties of the practical transformer. Losses are there, winding resistance is there, and leakage reactance is also there. Now practical transformer, we have to study practical transformer for two conditions: on load condition and no load condition. So first, let us understand practical transformer on no load condition. What do you mean by no load condition? So when primary, here transformer is there, you can see here primary is connected to the AC supply and secondary is assumed to be left open. So the transformer is said to be no load. Here no load is connected across the secondary winding. Now when transformer is on no load and as it is a practical transformer, primary current is not purely reactive. In the previous case, primary current, in the case of ideal transformer, primary current is purely inductive. Here it is not. So it supplies the iron losses in the core and copper losses in the primary winding, because now angle between V and I is not 90 degree, but it will be less than 90 degree because the winding consists of certain resistances. So as I told you here, no load primary current I08 is not at 90 degree behind V1, but it lags V1 by some angle phi 0, that is less than 90 degree, because windings are not purely inductive. It consists of some resistive part also. So no load input power for practical transformer is given by W0 is equal to V1 I0 cos phi 0. This is the no load input power and this is the in phase component of the primary current I0. Now moving towards the phasor diagram of practical transformer on no load condition. Now this phasor diagram we have already drawn for ideal transformer. We know phi is taken as a reference. I mu is a magnetization component of the current which is in phase with the I. V1 leads the I1 by 90 degree. E1 and E2 are in antiphase with V1. Now here primary current is not made up of only magnetization current, but it consists of other component, that is IW. So I0, that is a primary no load primary current, is a phasor sum of IW and I mu, and here angle between input no load primary current and V1 is not 90 degree, but it is phi 0. So from this phasor diagram we can say I0 has a two component. First one is an active component or working component or loss component, because it mainly supplies the iron losses plus some quantity of copper losses. So IW is given by I0 cos phi 0, which is in phase. It is a component of the no load primary current which is in phase with V1. So IW is equal to I0 cos phi 0. Next component is a magnetization component of the current, reactive component of the no load primary current, which is denoted by I mu, which is in quadrature phase with V1. It is denoted by I mu is equal to I0 sin phi 0. This is an active component and this is a reactive component of the current. So from the phasor diagram, we can say I0, that is no load primary current, is a phasor sum of I mu and IW. So it is given by square root of IW square plus I mu square. Now moving towards the next theory, that is a practical transformer on load condition. So as name suggests, here load is connected across the secondary and voltage source V1 is connected across the primary. N1 is a number of primary turn, N2 is a number of secondary turn. E1 is a EMF induced in primary winding, E2 is a EMF induced in the secondary winding. Now, as secondary is loaded, load is connected across the secondary winding, current I2 will start to flow, I2 will be set up. The magnitude and phase of the I2 is determine the characteristics of the load. Load may be resistive, may be inductive, may be capacitive. So current I2 will be in phase with the V2 if load is non-inductive or resistive. It lags if load is inductive, and it leads if load is capacitive. As alternating voltage is connected across the primary winding, alternating current I0 will start to flow and alternating flux will be set up. Alternating flux will produce E1 in the primary winding, E2 in the secondary winding. Now because of E2, secondary current will start to flow, and because of E2, MMF will be induced in the secondary winding, that is N2I2, and this N2I2 will set up some flux phi2 in the secondary winding. So here you can say flux phi2 is set up now in the core. Now phi2 is because of I2 and I2 is because of phi. So phi2 will be in opposite direction to the main flux, primary flux phi, which is due to I0. Now as phi2 is in opposite direction of phi, phi2 will weaken the primary flux phi, and as phi will be weakened, EMF induced in primary will be also start to reduce. Now what will be happening if E1 will start to reduce? So current I0 is flowing from V1 between V1 and E1. So as V1 as E1 is reduced, so for some amount of time V1 gains upper hand over E1, and it causes the more current to flow in the primary winding. Now there is a more potential, the difference between V1 and E1 is more, so additional current will start to flow in the primary winding. So additional current I2 dash will start to flow. Here you can say I2 dash will start to flow in the primary winding. Now it is known as a load component of the primary current, and this component will be in antiphase with I2 because I2 dash is flowing because of phi2 and phi2 is flowing because of I2. So I2 dash and I2 will be in opposition to each other. So now this additional current I2 dash will set up MMF in primary winding, that is nothing but the N1 I2 dash. So now next flux phi2 dash will be produced because of I2 dash, which is exactly in opposite direction to phi2 and will be will be equal in magnitude to that of phi2. So phi2 dash and phi2 will cancel out each other, and so main flux phi will be retained in the, as both the flux cancel out each other, we can find that magnetic effect of secondary current I2 is immediately cancelled out by I2 dash. Phi2 and phi2 dash are equal in magnitude in opposite direction, so we can write phi2 is equal to phi2 dash. So we can write N1 I2 dash is equal to N2 I2. So I2 dash is equal to N2 divided by N1 into I2. So we can write I2 dash is equal to KI2 because K is a voltage transformation ratio. So I2 dash is proportional to the I2, and I2 dash, as I told you, is a load component of the current which is in antiphase with I2. Now moving towards the phasor diagram for resistive load for practical transformer on load condition. So this we have already, this kind of phasor diagram we have already drawn for the power practical transformer on no load condition. We know for I0 is lagging behind V1 by some angle phi 0. Now if load is assumed to be resistive, then I2 will be in phase with V2. If so, I2 will be in this downward direction. I2 will be in downward direction, so I2 dash will be in upward direction because both are in antiphase. Now total primary current will be phasor sum of I2 dash plus I0. So this is a phasor sum of I2 dash and I0. Now the angle between V1 and I1 is now phi 1. So this is a complete phasor diagram for practical transformer on no load condition, and the phasor diagram is drawn for resistive type of load. Now if load is inductive, then we know if load is inductive, then I2 will lag behind V2 by some angle phi 2. So I2 will be drawn over here. Now I2 is in this direction, so I2 dash will be completely in opposite direction. So I2 dash will be over here. V1 and angle between V1 and I0 is phi 0. Now input current is a phasor sum of I2 dash and I0. So this is a final resultant vector phasor, that is I1, and the phase angle between V1 and I1 is phi 1. So this phasor diagram is drawn when load is assumed to be inductive. Similarly, you can draw the phasor diagram for capacitive load also. So this is all about the today's video lecture. In this video lecture, I have discussed about the ideal transformer and practical transformer for no load condition and on load condition. Hope you have enjoyed the video. See you soon in the next video of the transformer. Thank you for watching.